Key Principles: Thinking Fast and Slow by Daniel Kahneman. Introduction. Daniel Kahneman's Thinking Fast and Slow unveils the inner workings of our minds, revealing the two systems that drive our thoughts and decisions. This series, Key Principles: Thinking Fast and Slow, distills the book's core concepts, exploring how heuristics, biases, and cognitive illusions shape our judgments. We'll uncover how to recognize these patterns and make more rational choices. Part 1. The Two Systems. Daniel Kahneman's Thinking Fast and Slow introduces the concept of two distinct systems that drive our thinking, System 1 and System 2. This section explores the fundamental differences between these systems and how they interact. Introduction to System 1 and System 2. System 1. This system operates quickly and automatically, with little or no effort and no sense of voluntary control. It's the fast, intuitive, and emotional part of our brain. System 2. This system allocates attention to the effortful mental activities that demand it, including complex computations. It's the slow, deliberate, and logical part of our brain. System 1 is the fast thinking, while System 2 is the slow thinking. The interaction between the systems. System 1 constantly generates suggestions for System 2, impressions, intuitions, intentions, and feelings. If endorsed by System 2, these impressions and intuitions turn into beliefs, and impulses turn into voluntary actions. When System 1 runs into difficulty, it calls on System 2 to support more detailed and specific processing that may solve the problem of the moment. System 2 is mobilized when a question arises for which System 1 does not offer an answer. The division of labor. System 1 is efficient and handles routine tasks, allowing System 2 to conserve energy for more complex problems. However, System 1 is prone to biases and errors, as it relies on heuristics and shortcuts. System 2 can correct these errors, but it's often lazy and relies on System 1's suggestions. The division of labor is efficient, but also creates the possibility of systematic errors. Understanding this division is key to understanding how we think and make decisions. Part 2. Heuristics and Biases. This section explores some of the common heuristics and biases that System 1 employs, leading to predictable errors in judgment. Availability heuristic. This heuristic relies on the ease with which examples come to mind when evaluating a specific topic, decision, or method. If something is easily recalled, we tend to overestimate its frequency or probability. For example, we might overestimate the risk of a plane crash because news of such events is readily available. Representativeness heuristic. This heuristic involves judging the probability of an event based on how well it matches our existing stereotypes or prototypes. We often ignore base rates and other relevant information, focusing instead on how similar something is to our mental image. For instance, we might assume someone is a librarian because they fit our stereotype of a librarian, even if there are far more farmers than librarians. Anchoring and adjustment. This heuristic describes our tendency to rely heavily on the first piece of information offered, the anchor, when making judgments or estimates. We then adjust our estimate based on the anchor, but often not enough, leading to biased results. For example, if asked whether Gandhi was older or younger than 140 when he died, people will give a much higher age estimate than if asked whether he was older or younger than 35. Other key biases. Loss aversion. We feel the pain of losses more strongly than the pleasure of gains, leading to risk-averse behavior. Framing of facts. The way information is presented can significantly influence our decisions, even if the underlying facts are the same. Overconfidence. We tend to overestimate our abilities and the accuracy of our judgments, leading to poor decision-making. These biases are often automatic and unconscious, making them difficult to overcome. Part 3: Overconfidence and Predictions. This section explores how our overconfidence and illusions of validity can lead to flawed predictions and planning. The illusion of validity. We tend to overestimate our ability to predict future outcomes, even when we have limited or unreliable information. This illusion is often fueled by System 1's tendency to create coherent narratives and ignore evidence that contradicts our beliefs. Even experts can fall prey to this illusion, leading to overconfident judgments and risky decisions. The feeling of knowing something is not the same as actually knowing it. The planning fallacy. This fallacy describes our tendency to underestimate the time, costs, and risks associated with future projects while overestimating the benefits. We often focus on the best-case scenario and ignore potential obstacles or setbacks. This leads to unrealistic plans and frequent project failures. Optimism bias is a large part of the planning fallacy. Expert intuition. Kahneman explores the conditions under which expert intuition can be trusted. Expert intuition is reliable when the environment is predictable and the expert has had ample opportunity to learn from feedback. However, in unpredictable environments or when experts rely on heuristics and biases, their intuition can be flawed. Experience is important, but feedback on the experience is even more important. Many experts are overconfident in their abilities. Part 4: Choices and Decisions. This section explores how our cognitive biases and the interplay between System 1 and System 2 influence our choices and decisions, particularly in the context of risk and well-being. Prospect theory. This theory, developed by Kahneman and Amos Tversky, describes how people make decisions under risk and uncertainty. It highlights that we are more sensitive to losses than to gains, and that we evaluate outcomes relative to a reference point rather than in absolute terms. This explains why we often take greater risks to avoid losses than to achieve gains. It also shows that the way a choice is framed can significantly influence our decisions. The endowment effect. This effect describes our tendency to value things more highly, simply because we own them. We often demand much more to give up an object than we would be willing to pay to acquire it. This effect is driven by loss aversion and the emotional attachment we form to our possessions. The experienced self versus the remembering self. Kahneman distinguishes between the experiencing self, which lives in the present moment, and the remembering self, which evaluates past experiences. The remembering self is heavily influenced by peaks and endings, often neglecting the duration of experiences. This can lead to biased memories and flawed decisions based on those memories. The remembering self is in charge of telling the stories of our lives. Implications for well-being. Our thinking patterns and biases can significantly impact our happiness and life satisfaction. Understanding the interplay between System 1 and System 2 can help us make more rational and beneficial choices. By recognizing our biases, we can strive to make decisions that prioritize our long-term well-being over immediate gratification. We should be wary of focusing solely on the remembering self and try to live more in the moment.